Welcome everyone, and thank you for your interest in the Digital Arts Showcasing Grant of the British Council of Vietnam. My name is Thao, Nguyễn Phương Thao. I'm the Head of Arts at the British Council in Vietnam. And we just want to organize this information session to give you the most useful information and some time for you, an opportunity for you to ask your questions if you have any. So just briefly about the British Council. Some of you know, some of you don't, but the British Council is the UK's international organisation for cultural relations and educational opportunities. There's more information about here for you to read through. We have offices in over 100 countries in the world, and we reach over 80 million people uh, over the last year. So this is a very brief introduction about the British Council. Those of you in Vietnam probably know more about the work that we do in Vietnam. But if you don't, you're welcome to check out the website britishcouncil.vn for more information. Um, Before we start, there's a little bit of a housekeeping. I think we are probably all very familiar with having meeting online, but in case you need just to check through these. So this session will last for about 1 hour, and there will be presentation by me for about 30 minutes, and the rest of the time we will have for Q&A. As you probably noticed, and I hope you're all right with that, this session is being recorded and shared, will be recorded, it is being recorded and will be shared on the British Council Vietnam website for people to check out, or for yourself to check out if you forget things. The most important thing is to put yourself on mute when you're not speaking. When it comes to Q&A question, you are welcome to open the mic and speak out when you're asked to, but please keep it on mute if you're not talking, so that everyone can hear the presentation. You're welcome to put your video on. It feels a little bit lonely if it feels like I'm talking to myself only here, if your internet connection allows. So you're welcome to put your video on. During the presentation, if you have question, it's probably a good idea to write down your question in the chat box, and we will get to it after the presentation when we in the Q&A session, or during Q&A, you can just raise your hand and wait until your turn and then unmute yourself and ask your question. So those are the housekeeping. So what is the Digital Arts Showcasing? It is a small grant program. We're offering between 1,000 to 3,000 pounds. So that's around 30 something million dong to 90 million dong, if I'm not mistaken. The exchange rate is about £1 for 30,000 dong, if I'm not mistaken. We give you more accurate rate after in a little bit. So the aim of this Art Showcasing grant is to support existing Vietnam and UK artistic collaborations, and that is to showcase your work on digital platforms. Now, if it's digital artwork, arts made by digital technologies or means, that's included as well. This grant is not for international travel. We all know that international travel is extremely difficult at the moment, so this grant is not for that because of the COVID travel restrictions. And wherever the national guidelines permit, I know that in the UK, you probably be able to have face-to-face activities, not at the moment in Hanoi or Ho Chi Minh City, but wherever and whenever national guidelines permit, face-to-face activities may be held, and local travel may be covered by this grant. I mentioned the grant amounts already. This grant is for project or activity or event taking place between October 2021, so in a little bit, in a month and a little bit more, and until February in 2022. The application deadline, very important, is on the 12th of September 2021. So try to get it to us before midnight Vietnam time. That'd be grand. Sorry, you might hear a little bit of a tropical storm outside my window. Hope that's all right, not too distracting. Um, what are the grants for? So this grants is for the grants that we're offering are for artistic work produced by using digital technologies or other means, but adapted to platforms, suitable platforms for showcasing. Sorry, this sentence is a little bit strange, but that's what it means. Um, this grant is for artists and cultural and art professionals. So individual, it might be for art collectives, networks, and organizations, both from Vietnam or from the UK. And these organizations or networks or collectives or individuals, they need to have existing connections, meaning you have collaborated already on different projects or research or doing work together. Um, so we are looking for works in all artistic and cultural disciplines and practices. For example, we put some examples here, but it doesn't mean that it's limited to these examples. So we put virtual exhibitions, online film screenings, concerts, any audio visual presentations online. So everything is online, right? Publication of literature or translation works. It could be anything for sharing, such as like a talk or a conference, a seminar, webinar. It could be production and presentation of online catalog or any kind of collaborative work. So it's up to you to decide what kind of forms that you will showcase online. And we particularly invite proposals that focus on gender and race and ethnicity, disability, inclusion, aging, and other areas of diversity. Diversity is a strong focus for the work of the British Council globally. So we would really be happy to see if your proposal is in one of these areas or in any areas of diversity. The eligibility conditions, this is very important, so please do pay attention. You will need to send your complete application to that email address that you're seeing. This email address is very popular to people in Vietnam and some in the UK, I hope. Um, and this email address is noted on the call out on our website, so it's easy to find. So send it to us by the 12th of September using the form provided on the call. So that's what we would expect to see, that form and only that form. So make sure you use the right form. Each application must have at least one Vietnam-based applicant and or Vietnamese applicant individual or organizations as lead applicant and one UK-based partner. Lead applicant here means that the person or the organization will provide their names and contact detail on the contract and will be the key person who we talk to about your proposed project. The project proposal should have a timeline ending no later than 28th of February 2022. This is just the conditions that we set for the grant. And if the applicant is an organization, it should be registered in the UK or in Vietnam, just to make it more explicit. Selection criteria. So in front of you, on this slide here, are things that that you would need to pay attention to. This is how your applications or proposals will be evaluated. The prerequisite, I don't say that, I can't pronounce this word very well. So the must condition before we even look at the details of your application is that you need to have both UK and Vietnam-based applicants. The Vietnam-based applicants should be the lead applicants. I mentioned that in the previous slide. The proposed showcase taking place between October and February. I also mentioned it in the previous slides. So these are the two must-have conditions. other criteria, the key criteria are you need to have a Vietnam UK existing collaboration and exchange. We ask you about this in the application form. You need to have some artistic or collaborative work ready for digital showcase. So you need to show evidence of that in your application and proposal that will support your application. You need to have evidence of developed discussion and clear plan between partners. So the more information about how you work together on this project or on this event plan, how you've worked on the artwork together, for an example, we like to know more about that so we can feel confident that you have a clear plan between the partners. The three next criteria or the contribution of the project to a long-term partnership. If you can show that having the grant or the support, financial support to do this event or project would support you and your partner to have a longer term partnership. That's something that we'd be looking for. Evidence of clear and accurate cost breakdown. It is very important to when you do a project or an event to have a clear cost breakdown. So you make sure that you have enough money, you're not running out of money. You make sure that you're not asking for more because more than you don't spend, then you have to give back. That'd be complicated. And you need to have costs that practical, feasible for what you want to do. So it's very important to have this accurate cost breakdown. And the last criteria is the focus on gender and any other areas of diversity. That's something that we asked for from the beginning for this because it's a focus of the British Council. So that the selection criteria, I don't know if you have any questions about this selection criteria or anything, note it down, pop in the chat, and then we come back to your questions later in the Q&A session. Grant timeline. We mentioned this before, so the deadline is 12th of September. Information session, which is this session, scoring will take place right after the deadline, and your application will be evaluated by our team, British Council Arts staff from the UK and in Vietnam in September. Announcement and confirmation of acceptance of grantees, or grant recipients. We will let all applicants know about the outcomes of their applications by the 30th of September. We're very serious about sticking to the timeline, so you should expect to hear from us about your applications before 30th of September. And that's very necessary to have you start on working on your proposal as well. So it's important. Grant timeline. Next slide is the contract. So contract time would be well, right after we make our offer and you accept the offer, we will process the grant agreement and share the payment details for transfer of the funds. And payment will be done in October and November. Throughout that time, now we have a policy. Some of you who receive grant funding from the British Council are probably aware that it takes a bit of time to process payment. Usually our payment term is 30 days, no less than 30 days. So it does take a bit of time. So do think about that. After we've done with the grant agreement, and we will provide you with a briefing or orientation session for all of the grant recipients. And this will be organized in October. The exact date we will confirm with you after a later stage. But this session is to give you all the information, all the guidance you need to know in implementing or delivering a project using grant funding from the British Council. Hopefully be useful. Implementation, so that take place between October 2021 to February 2022, including any, that's all inclusive. Grant monitoring, this is quite technical grant management language, but I hope you understand. It would be our British Council staff will be in communication with you to give you the support if you need and to get progress updates from you. And the last one is project completion and final payment. And that will be done by the end of March, after your proposed project has finished, after you've done all the paperwork, all the supporting document, including financial receipts, invoices, and a technical report. We call it technical report because it's more about your project rather than the financial side of things. Moving on, so this is a bit of a instruction for application or for applicants. Um, you will need to complete the application form. Please do ensure that all questions and sections are answered so we can get all the information we need from you for the evaluation. Please kindly ensure that your information given is clear and accurate. Sometimes we don't receive a lot of applications. Sometimes we receive a lot of applications, and it's always very helpful if the information you provide on the form is clear and accurate information. So no surprise for after as well. Um, Submit the application form to that email address by the 12th September. Don't miss the deadline, because if you miss the deadline, your application won't be accepted. And when you do the application form and when you need to, please do refer to the digital art showcasing call for proposals, because all the details are in there. In fact, this information session, we're not talking about anything new or anything that's not already included in the call for proposal. So if you need, when you do the application, do go back to that link that's posted on that's hosted on our website. If you don't know how to get to our website, maybe one of our colleagues can help to pop that in the chat. Um, and the link is included in our social media channels and a lot of different information channels for artists and creatives. During the application, so what to prepare, um, you need your and your counterparts, your partner's contact details. So if you are Vietnam based and you are a Vietnamese individual or organization or network or collective, you need to have your partner's detail and you need to include that in the application. So make sure that you have that before you prepare your application. Showcase details. You need to outline what would you like to propose after discussion with your partner. So I guess this would be a joint effort. You and your partner discuss about how you would like to organize the digital showcase of your work, and then you include that in your application. Potential long-term partnership. This is something that we're looking for as part of the criteria. So it'd be helpful if you can articulate how the showcasing would help you to maintain or to develop a long-term partnership. Um, this is something, the next point is something that we all know. It's a COVID-19 risk management. Um, we know that Vietnam, Hanoi, and Ho Chi Minh City are in full lockdown at the moment, maybe stricter in Ho Chi Minh City. Um, and we don't know how long it's going to last, and we don't know what's going to happen in the future. It's more relaxed now in the UK, but also COVID-19 risk is a real risk. So for any project, please do um, um, give information about what or how COVID-19 risk might have an impact on your project and how you would propose to manage or mitigate the risks, to make sure that your project will be delivered in full. Now, this is something perhaps more challenging for projects and for people wishing to do face-to-face events, and less so for digital events. But in any ways, there's other work, and there might be risks that you see quite evident in what you are proposing to do. It's up to you, but it's always helpful to see that you think about it and you factor it into your application. Diversity, we've talked about this. Anything that applicable, of course, if it's not a project about gender or specifically about race or ethnicity, etc., it does not mean that you won't be selected, for an example, but it would help to score you 10 more scores if it is. So it's good to keep that in mind. Cost breakdown, your estimated budget and its breakdown. We provide a form so you can follow that form. That'd be great. And any other evidences or supporting documents that you'd like to add. Now, all the information you will need to provide would come in that application form, downloadable from the call for proposals on our website. So if you want to include anything about yourself, for example, a web link or a Dropbox, accessible Dropbox or Google Drive, OneDrive, wherever, but you include that into that form so we will know more about you if you want that information to support your proposal. So in short, we only look at that application form. Next thing on doing the application is on the budget. This is something that a lot of people, a lot of our grant recipients or grantees have challenges with or have a challenging time with dealing with the proposed budget. But as you can see, the form is, we included the basic form in this slide, and it's not too complicated. It has all the cost items that you need to make this project or event happen. It has a unit cost. Is that per day, per person, or is that per item, or is that per page? If it's translation fee, we put some example in for you, and then the unit value. And we will need to judge that unit value if it's feasible or if it's reasonable, the number of unit, and then you work out the total, and then you work out the whole total cost of the budget of your entire budget. So this can, as you say, include artistic and professional fees. So your fee, if you're an artist or professional, creative professionals proposing the project, it include equipment and materials that you need to make it happen. It include translation, interpretation if you need. And I think that many people who are interested in, UK Vietnam collaboration include this in because they wanted to make their work available and accessible to people both in Vietnam or in the UK. Some projects thinking about including Welsh in their translation. Is a translation project. I heard about it from our connections through culture call recently. Online platform equipment tool and fees. Those are the fees that you probably will need to consider the most since this is digital art showcasing. So we don't know what to suggest, but you choose a platform that work the best for you, and any fees for those platforms or tools or equipment, include that in, and any other costs that are directly related to the delivery of your proposed activities. Promotion fees on Facebook is one kind of the fees that some people include. Zoom package for online meetings between the two partners in the two countries. That's something that people included before. Exhibition setup, if you can do face-to-face event in one of the countries, do include that in. And transaction fee, if any. And you probably can recall that we prefer the Vietnamese or Vietnam-based applicant to apply for this because the contract would be offered, or the grant agreement would be done in Vietnam, and it's and all the applicable taxes in Vietnam, all the VAT, PIT, personal income tax, value added tax should be included. So make sure you do that. Otherwise, you be paying things out of your pockets. You be paying for tax out of your pocket if you don't include tax in your budget. We recommend that you use the exchange rate of £1 equals 31,700. That's the exchange rate that we would recommend you to use. Right. During the application, other notes that we have here, we include in the application form the data protection and consent section. So please do remember to check on the box, right click, select checkbox, because we will need this to validate your application. Um, the final reporting, sorry, another thing, if you can't check that box, just indicate with an X or anything nearby to let us know that you agree and you give us a consent to contact you and so on. Um, and final thing, final reporting, this will happen in March. I mentioned a little bit briefly before, we will require technical and financial reports, and we need you to include the receipts, contracts, and other financial supporting documents with this financial report to us at the end of the year. We know there's a lot of work, and we will support you in this, but this is a requirement of the organization of the British Council of Vietnam and the Vietnamese government. So please do keep this in mind. Um, and I think this might be the last slide. These are all of the child protection and safeguarding policies of the British Council. So you will receive this after our session, and you can click on the link to find out or to get an understanding of our policies regarding involvement of children and vulnerable adults. We have very strict policy for child protection and safeguarding of vulnerable adults. And so we would like you to support us to get an understanding about our policies. If your project, particularly if your project involves children or adults at risk, the project team will be you who implement the project will be required to go through a training with the British Council. Now, all of the British Council staff have to do these training, mandatory training every 2 years, I think. So I can assure you that these training are very helpful, very useful. So if your project involves children and adults at risk, please do state that in your application or in our communication in one way or another, so we can help you to get the training you need. So that's it for the presentation. I think it was done in maybe 23, 24 minutes. So I hope that it was not too quick for you. I'm not going to turn off the screen, but I'm just going to move to this. You might see my team screen now for a question and answer session. If you bear with me, I'm just going to look at the chat to see if there's any information in the chat first. Oh, there's a few questions here, so I'm just going to go from the first question. Danny asks, should projects only include showcases of work that has been developed through a collaboration, or can it include work made separately by artists in UK and Vietnam, then brought together to showcase and share? This is a very good question. I'm going to try to give an answer, and Danny, if you want to me to clarify anything, please unmute yourself and do so. I think it's possible. I think that as long as you have that connection before you make a proposal to do the showcase, it could be work developed separately by UK and Vietnam artists, but then you come together and put it together in one showcase, one digital showcase. But the important thing is that you need to evidence that you've been talking, you have a developed discussion, you have worked on the plan, and you worked on the application together. And if you can show that by doing this showcase together, it will support you to have a long-term partnership in the future, then it's a great idea. Does that answer your question, Danny?
Yes, it does. Thank you very much. That's great.
Of course. Thank you. The next question, Hung Chen. I was going to ask a similar question to Daniel. Oh, sorry, I skipped that one. Two organizations working together. Hung, do you want to unmute yourself and ask this question instead of me reading it out loud?
Well, yeah, I guess you kind of answered that already. So I think that one is good.
Okay, so no need to go to this question. Okay, great. Okay. Sorry, Hung. A first-time collaboration that's been developed for a while without. Yes. Okay, done. Okay, great. Thank you. The next question. I think that's all. That's all we have in the
Yes,
chat
can
box.
I have a question?
Yes, of course you can.
Yes, I am Vietnamese and living abroad in Germany. And can Vietnamese in can I apply for that?
I don't think so. I think you have to be Vietnamese if you. So this is a case that before. If you are a Vietnamese but living in the UK and you are a UK resident, but you have Vietnamese parentage, yes, you can apply. But if you are Vietnamese but you don't live in Vietnam, I don't think that it's you are eligible for this grant.
Okay.
This is
But
Vietnamese
my
living in
parents
Vietnam.
still in Vietnam, and I just study abroad. Is this not possible?
I don't
I
think
still
so.
have a
Grant,
account and bank account and etc. in Vietnam.
I don't think so. I'm sorry. This call is for Vietnamese living in Vietnam and
Okay.
UK nationals living in UK or temporarily living outside the UK but still a resident of the have their residence in the UK registered in the UK.
Okay. Thanks. Yeah.
No
Good to know.
problem.
Yeah.
Sorry. Any more questions? I'm just going to give a couple more minutes if people want to think about what they want to ask. Nhật Minh, do you want to unmute yourself and ask the question? Or you prefer to type? Right, I'm going to read out Nhật Minh Nguyen question. How can I earn by freelancing? I know Illustrator and Photoshop. I'm in great need of money. Well, I'm sorry to hear that. If you have an idea for a project, if you have a UK partner, if you are Vietnamese and have a UK partner, and if you have an ideas for a project, we would welcome you to apply for this call for proposals. Otherwise, there might be, if you're looking for paid opportunity to work as a illustrator or a Photoshop, I think you might need to look at other places, other channels. And good luck. Next question, Danny. You have a couple of questions. Do you want to unmute yourself and ask a question?
Yes, sure. Firstly, just thinking about if collaborations are new, would you recommend that we apply to something like Connections Through Culture first and then built up, a collaborative pieces of work, and then in the future went for something like a digital showcasing fund?
Technically, thanks, Danny, for the question. And I'm glad that you are also looking at connections through cultures. Technically, you can apply for both at the same time. The two calls have been launched in a way that allowed you to do both. But keep in mind that if your application to connections through culture is not successful, then automatically you won't get the digital art showcasing, if you know what I mean. The timeline is set out so that the two would work. There are key differences between connections through culture and digital art showcasing. The most um, obvious one is that the connections through culture have a larger grant package. So I think up to 8,000 per grant. So that allowed you to do the work, to create the work a longer time and create the work. But digital art showcasing, you see that the budget is slightly smaller, and that only allow for probably not production cost, not so much of production costs, but more like event related costs. So do have a think about it. But technically, you can apply for both, and we encourage you to apply for both if the connections through culture you think is not enough to cover all of the costs that you have. Is that
That's
clear?
great, thank you. Yeah, that's very clear. Yeah, and so I suppose my second question does relate to that really, and it's about, will this program and I suppose Connections Through Culture have applications rounds in the future? And I suppose that's because I'm thinking that we might consider applying to Connections Through Culture now to build up collaborative work, and then possibly apply for a digital showcasing grant in the future to showcase the results of that collaboration.
Okay. In the future, by in the future, you mean could be after March next year?
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, possible if we are going to launch another round for digital arts showcasing or connections through culture. So there's a big if there.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, that's great. Thank you.
No props. Okay. Right. I can see that my colleague Nga has responded to another question by Nhật Minh. Yeah. Yes, it seems like Nhật Minh is a little bit um, confused about the call. But if you need anything, you can unmute yourself and ask, and we can clarify, give you clear information. Chang Ling has a question. Chang Ling, do you want to unmute yourself and ask a question? I'd love to hear your voice. It's a very small meeting anyway.
Hi, can you hear me?
Hi. Yes.
Okay, so my question is, if we're already grant recipients of another VC grant, which is the Digital Collaboration Fund, are we still eligible to apply for this one?
The answer is yes. Now, this is what I would say to all of the people who are interested in our grants. Now, all the information is in the call, and if in the call it doesn't say that you cannot apply, give it a shot, give it a try. So yes, you can apply if you have applied and have received the Digital Collaboration Fund from the British Council. Keep in mind that it won't, because we even if the Digital Collaboration Fund is managed in the UK, and this one will be managed in Vietnam. We are one organization, so we have all of the information. So make sure that you don't double up the cost. So whatever is paid by the Digital Collaboration Fund, we will not pay it for in another grant, any grants of the British Council. So just keep that in mind. Is that right?
Yeah. Yes. Thank you.
Super. Okay. Is there any more questions for us? Is there anything that you might want to ask about the application form, the criteria? Or about reporting later? Anything that you're not sure about? Or if you're sure about everything now, we don't need to make this this information session 1 hour. Have a shorter meeting is always good. So we have time to do all the things. So, well, I'm gonna show what I'm showing you here. Can you see my screen?
Yep.
I suppose you can see my screen. Thank you, Danny. So if you have more questions after this session, please send us an email and we try our best to get to you as soon as possible. That's our email address there. And our team will pick up your question and try to answer your questions best we can. And that's it. Thank you and good luck if you are going to put in an application. And we really look forward to seeing good applications for this grant. So thank you.
Thank you very much.
Bye.
Thank you
Have a
too.
good rest of the day wherever you are. Take care. Bye.
Bye.